Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode in my series on the lore of the Witcher world. Last time we looked at the famous character of Lambert, but today we're going to be going away from the Witchers and heading toward the creatures, and I wanted to talk about the Berserker. Now, I did cover the Berserker inside of my video on Cursed Ones, but I think I can go into a lot more depth both in the ways of the creature generally and what inspired the existence of them in the first place. So that means we'll be diving into a little of our own folklore as well. Even if you've seen the video on Cursed Ones, I promise that it will be well worth your wait watching this one because it's got a lot more information in it and it goes a lot more in depth if the Berserker is something that you're of course interested in. First, we'll be looking over the origin of the Berserker, secondly their appearance and temperament, thirdly what triggers their transformation, and finally how to fight them. The Berserkers in our own mythologies come from many different cultures, meaning that there are multiple versions of such creatures spread throughout literally hundreds of ancient stories and fables. There are numerous references to shape-shifting beings who will morph into full-grown animals, from Celtic to Slavic to Norse mythos, just to give a few examples. However, thanks to the restraints of reality, having shape-shifting warriors is obviously just a legend. Many people believe that it was born mainly from Norse mythology, as there were actual warriors from Icelandic fables that were referred to as literally going berserk when confronted by the rage and fear of battle. Berserk also being another word for what is basically a blind rage, and hence why a berserker is called a berserker and referred to as going berserk. It is commonly believed that they drew their power from a bear-worshipping cult and wore the pelts of skinned bears as if to appear as ferocious and menacing as possible, which led to many soldiers believing they were indeed fighting against men that stood as half bear and half man. Additionally to that, wearing the skins of animals that were so large and powerful is almost a direct representation of your own power, meaning you must be just as strong, if not stronger, than the beast that you killed. There are also actually many different variants on those who drew power from certain animals, such as the boar being another good example of men who would become obsessed with fury, meaning that there must have been many different cults or clans of warrior-like people who were obsessed with certain animals they believed gave them superhuman abilities. Inside of The Witcher, many people believe that berserkers are no more than a legend said to scare children into finishing their soup, but it could unfortunately not be further from the actual truth. When looking at the Berserkers from inside of the Witcherverse, the main difference between them and an actual real bear is their size, the shape of their tongue and teeth. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to determine the difference between the two unless you happen to be an experienced monster hunter or witcher. To say that they are terrifying or massive would be an understatement, as they are known to rip even mounted cavalry from their saddles in a matter of seconds. They can also tear through steel armor and bend the blades of any army due to their overwhelming, unwavering strength. In mind, but for any transformations, many berserkers are much akin to normal folk, having families, fears, wants and needs just like any other human being. However, once abandoning those lives and once transformed, their mind is, for lack of a better word, completely broken. They would not recognize even the person who is closest to them, as they are overcome by a why did I say blinding like that? They would not recognize even the person who is closest to them, as they are overcome by a blinding animalistic rage. They kill and slay anything that is near them, wanting only to sate an appetite, which means they share many similarities with a werewolf in that respect. They do not know themselves, all they know and understand is that they need and want to kill, which has no doubt led to many tragic stories of berserkers being overwhelmed and killing even their families and loved ones. And just to quickly clarify this, because it can be quite confusing, berserkers do do not actually have families or loved ones after they become a Berserker. I'm only referring to the men and what they do before entering the clan of Berserkers. Okay, to better explain it, this is a small segment from the book known as the Bear Legend, which explains it very well, and it basically gives you what you need to know, and this book is found inside of the game. The Berserkers do not constitute a separate clan in terms of blood or lineage. They are instead a family forged by warriors who have heard the call of the bears and answered it by abandoning their loved ones and joining the community of mountain dwellers. Not every man who seeks to join it is accepted into the Brotherhood. The candidates must first pass difficult trials which usually end in their death. The last trial is the hardest. It is called the Trial of the Bear's Triumph, but few outside of the Brotherhood have ever witnessed it, and none know what those who undergo it must endure. Quite curiously, the inhabitants of Skellige themselves know very little about the Berserkers, or Vidkals as they call them. They do not like to talk about these man-bears, not with outsiders, and not even amongst themselves. Something always interested me personally about Berserkers, which was wondering how much of the beast became a part of them even when they weren't transformed. I always wondered whether they took on more animalistic eating habits, if their more primal needs became a forefront in their lives as opposed to a secondary way of thinking. If one man can become a beast, then how much does the beast become the man? It's one of the most asked questions when referring to shapeshifters because of the difference in their own realities and what becomes the normality of each of their lives. Each is so different in their own way, and it's one of those questions I've always been wondering about, and you guys can tell me what you think as well, because it's a really interesting subject when you really think about the mentality and just the physical effects it would have on somebody to constantly switch between being one thing to another, and where do you draw the line between when you go too far one way. The transformation of a berserker inside of the world of The Witcher is actually very similar from that of many traditional tales from our own folklore. They are very simply overcome by the rage of battle and blood, leading them to transform into the monstrous beasts that they truly are. They can also be forced into this transformation by being given a certain potion that forces the state of mind perfect for the metamorphosis. And as to how these men even become a berserker initially, well, I will let you see for yourself. So as you can see, it's not exactly pleasant, but it's the way they become this animal and the way they become one with the animal they want to be. And as to why any man would want such a curse, it is largely related to fanatic obsession or the need to be the strongest warrior or the most vicious one, and the call of the bear is another reason for these men going up into the highlands and wanting to be a part of this for reasons maybe just known to themselves, and maybe there's a greater force in power, who knows. Inside of battle, as you can well imagine, berserkers are ferocious and fearsome warriors. They have little fear of pain or defeat, often ignoring their wounds even if a sword is plunged to its hilt into their flesh. However, once they transform into their bear-like form, they become even deadlier. They use their They use their massive, overbearing weight against any who are brave or foolish enough to stand before them. Their claws are long and thick, their teeth sharp, and their hunger for blood completely insatiable. They are, however, susceptible to fire, the bomb known as Devil's Puffball, and of course a slathering of cursed oils would help as well. If you're a witcher, it's a good idea to take advantage of Quen, since the attack from these beasts can cause incredible damage. And don't be fooled by their size, they can be very quick when needed and will stop at nothing to defeat their opponent. A Berserker alone is dangerous, but more than one is almost completely certain to be fatal and a death wish for anyone who's close by, and if anything, more than often the best tactic is to simply run away. If defeating such a valiant beast, you will reap the rewards of bare fat, berserker hide, and of course, raw meat. This was actually a really fun video to make, mainly due to my earlier comment about always being interested in shapeshifters and the mentality and the physicality of the entire ordeal. It's really interesting to think about just from a psychological point of view and what it would do to somebody's minds and if it would drive them insane up to a point and to what exactly the long-term effects of this would be. And maybe I'm looking too far into it considering this is all a fantasy world, but that's what makes it so fun. As always everyone, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video then please leave a like down below and let me know what you think and what can be improved upon. I know that the main problem I have right now is the audio quality on these videos, and that's mainly because I need to get a new microphone or something because I know it can be not so great sometimes and I'm working on that, so don't worry, eventually when I have the cash I'll be able to make it better. And thank you as well to all my patrons for supporting me so far, and by all means if any of you would like to buy me a cup of coffee or just support the channel, then you can head on over there and check everything out. And if any of you would like to see the channel grow with more regular uploads, then please share this video around or just tell a friend that you think might be interested in more videos, and stay subscribed because there's going to be a lot more on its way and the best is yet to come. Until the next one, this has been OkGovBear and you'll go and have a very, very wonderful day. Dr. Jackal and Mr. Hyde.